So the three of you head out. The two of you remembering enough about the previous trip there to know that you don't really need Braxis's direction at this point at all. You just head in the general direction of Ashabenford to the north and to the east. The trip is quite easygoing, especially when you make your way out of the forest and hit the edge of the river Ashab, which I will load. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Fuck, did I? That's what I'm doing. Okay. So once you hit the edge of, draw a tool. Yeah, so you guys are about here or so, and you make your way out. You hit the river Shava and make your way north. It's, as the previous day was, a beautiful day, birds chirping, the sun is out. Again, Mistdale is a very peaceful and beautiful place in the daytime. You make it back in very good time, as there's nothing to stop you guys along the way. It's just past mid-afternoon when you get back, early evening. You're all quite hungry, but Braxis seems very eager to get back to the barracks in good time, and you guys see no reason not to follow him as he crosses the fjord. You guys treading through water about this time of year, about knee-deep, coming into town. So I guess those lines are important. So you guys make quick time through town, coming in through here, along this route, coming back to the barracks here. The guard opens the barracks gates as you and Braxis approach, and Braxis makes no hesitation moving through the courtyard, not stopping to speak to any of the companions milling about the courtyard, who greet him as he makes his way through, heading towards the captain's office. The barracks itself, because I'm not sure if I've dictated this, is two rectangle buildings which are sort of surrounded by walls around the exterior. One building being the stables, which is just as big as the other building, being the fact that these guys are all riders. The other building itself being the barracks, which houses a few small offices, a communal type barracks, an armory, some kitchens, and the officers' quarters near the top floor, which you guys are headed to. You get a pretty good tour of the place just by following Braxis as he heads up towards the captain's office, but you're stopped by Lieutenant Graben in the hallway just before he makes it all the way up, who stops Braxis, pleased looking to see him, and says, "Ah, Braxis, you've returned. I see both you and your companions with you. That's good. What news of you do you have from the camp to the south? I assumed all went as though was planned?" Which Braxis looks kind of sly and says, "Depends on whose plan you are talking about." Which Graben looks genuinely confused and says, "What do you mean?" Braxis responds with, "Perhaps you should come with us as we debrief the captain. It would save us from telling the story twice." Which Graben sort of nods in agreement, seeming that makes logical sense, and leads the way now for the four of you to the captain's door, who knocks on it, and you hear someone reply, "Enter," in the captain's voice. So Lieutenant opens the door, leading you into the captain's office, which is, if not big, at least well furnished. Upon entering the room, you can see the captain isn't actually alone. He's accompanied by a dwarf sitting across the table from him. One sec. Okay. He's sitting at there's a dwarf sitting across the table from him. Lieutenant warms to see the dwarf in question and says, "Ah, Mallak." And then turns back to Iron and says, "Iron, this was the dwarf that I was telling you about, actually. You might have information on that tribe that you were looking for." Before any real proper introductions can be made, though, Braxis sort of interrupts and heads right to the captain. We're back from your errand, alive and well. The captain responds, I can see that. What do you have to report? Braxis looking like kind of surly as ever. Do you actually need me to tell you? Captain sort of like rocks back on his chair, eyeing up Braxis. I don't quite know what you're getting at here, Braxis, but I know for sure that I don't quite like the way that you're going about it. I'm pleased. Sorry, go ahead.
So I'm gonna, since I'm the person who was carrying the skull part with me, at this point I have it hooked to the back of my pack. I kind of reach around, unhook it, and hold it out front from the eye sockets.
Okay. The captain looks towards the skull thing that you're carrying, sort of assesses the three of you and looks back to Braxis and says, I'm pleased that you and your companions have returned, Braxis. So I'm going to let this insubordination slide for the sake of our guests. No need to bring them into the drama of this situation, but perhaps your companions are feeling a little better than you are, though. Vengar, why don't you enlighten me to the details of your trip? I'm sure Mallak would be as equally interested as I am in hearing of goblin activities in the area, though things seem to be a little more involved than that.
Throughout this whole conversation, I'm staring at this black lizard thing with my eyes wide and, unconsciously clutching my holy symbol.
Sure.
So, for the most part, at least it appeared that things were going exactly the way you had described them as likely going. Mm-hmm. We approach what looks like a small goblin camp. We make some bad decisions, but we eventually clean up. And we realize that these goblins are incredibly terrified of something in this little cabin at the end of the clearing. Being people of of sound decision making material, knowing nothing of what was in there, we battered down the door and found what frankly to me looked like a little tiny black dragon.
And you engaged the dragon? Clearly you're possessing its head.
To say it was a decision we made explicitly isn't probably true, but by the time we knew what we were doing, we were too far along to back down. Maybe we got lucky, but everyone who's alive has at some time got lucky, and here we are. What we're trying to figure out now is did anyone know about this? Is this something we should have been expecting?
The captain looks towards Braxis and asks him, Braxis, is that a true account of the events? To which he sort of just silently nods. And the captain looks back to the three of you looking pleased and says, so you had a success. I don't know what's got you all bent out of shape, Braxis. I can assure you I knew nothing about this serpent that you had encountered. I'm very pleased to hear of everything that has transpired. We sent you against these goblins. You clearly have routed them from their position. The town of Asher Benford is in your debt. If you have any reasonable requests, I'd be happy to hear them, but of course I wouldn't, with knowledge, send you to a situation that I didn't think you were capable of taking care of. Is there any actual response to that, or is everyone sort of like...
I kind of just smile a little and shake my head. I don't know any of these people well enough to really judge. I mean, do we have a sense of, is he being earnest?
Well, you could roll for that if you want.
I would happily roll.
I
for
mean,
that.
if you could roll an insight check.
Okay.
Sure. He's difficult to read. I mean, you definitely don't pick up any signs of lying from him. There's nothing that he's done that would, and you feel yourself like a good judge of character, that there's nothing, like he hasn't shown any signs of sweat or nervousness at you returning or anything like that.
No. I mean, so I mean, based on that, I just kind of, yeah, shake my head, smile, and look around at, look over at Braxis, look over at Iron, who I'm presuming is not in this world at the moment.
Iron's definitely there. He's not absent-minded. He's just the strong silent type for sure.
No,
He's a man of few words.
Yeah.
I get the sense that he trusts them, so I nod my head.
Sure. So again, the captain looks to Braxis and says, "Well, if there's nothing more, you're dismissed, Braxis. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for your service to the town of Ashabenford. Again, if there's anything I can do for you within reasonable request. However, that being said, Mallak was just leaving. If you'd excuse me, I have another petitioner's meeting in just a few moments. They should be waiting outside."
Of course. I'll leave you to it.
Thank you, Mallak. I appreciate your concerns. Sorry I couldn't invest the resources you were looking for. Is there anything else you feel like you guys... I mean, he's like asking you to leave. Is there anything you need to like interject to the situation, or are you content? Braxis is sort of like already on his way out of the room with the lieutenant. Is there anything you feel that you need to state to him before you leave, or
Have we been paid, or do we need to ask him about it?
you have not been paid?
No, I mean, I would just kind of, as they're stepping out, I'd be, so, is that it? You know, strangers show up, save us from a horde of goblins and drow. You know, you bring us here to rout, you know, a small band of goblins out in the wilderness, and we get a handshake and you leave? Is there no greater direction here? You don't want anything else from us? I mean, at the very least, where's our money?
Right. He sort of like, at the request of money, he sort of like glances at you and, "Oh, of course, your payment. It had slipped my mind completely." And he reaches into his desk, sort of opening some drawers and counting out some coins, putting them in a bag, and tosses a bag to Vengar. Well, gentlemen, I mean, the nature of these events, again, as I had stated when I employed you, never would I have previously done so if it weren't for the fact that our resources are stretched so thin. Goblins attacking in Mistdale, maybe this far close to Ashabenford might be a little bit rare, but goblins and drow are very regular populace within Mistdale. It's not so out of the ordinary that we would have to deal with them. The only thing that's out of ordinary is the fact that we had to recruit non-military to deal with them. But again, this has to do with our conflict of Sembia and the fact that our resources are stretched so thin. So again, I thank you for your assistance, but if there's nothing more, again, I'm a very busy man. The lieutenant is sort of like putting his arm around your shoulder, like it's time to leave, in a very friendly fashion. I mean, the lieutenant is if the captain isn't a very pleasant and receiving folk, at the very least, the lieutenant and Braxis are, right?